Hello, my name is Malik White, and I'm going to be doing my reflection presentation. Mine was about the positive and negative of criticism. I chose this reason being is because as humans, we're kind of resentful of negative criticism, and we're more like resistant to positive. Like we actually want to hear positive information. When we hear negative, we get a type of way about it. Criticism in the workplace. We receive a good amount of criticism and negative in the workplace, and it kind of takes a toll on things. We don't like hearing negative. When we hear negative, it tends to be we turn defensive and want to argue back and forth on why we see that it's not a negative thing and it should be positive. We don't like to take criticism the right way, so we tend to backlash. A personal experience in the workplace, for example, my boss always gave me a positive feedback on whatever I do as it pertains to leadership or just being an overall good employee. I'm always praised for things and it makes me feel good, just like anyone else will make them feel good. But sometimes when we do get negative, we tend to be very defensive, and I will own up to that I have been defensive in times of where I was given negative feedback, and I feel as though I shouldn't have been receiving that negative feedback. But most of us are always praised for good things, and we appreciate that. But one day I was criticized for how I complete my orders. Through our system, we scan things, we check inventory, we make sure everything is in, and when the orders come through, we make sure we check them all off, and we order every week. I order every week. I know what I order in the store, so I always knew, okay, this is what I needed, this is what I would bring in. My boss was always fine with that. One day she came in and she looked in the back room and she saw a ton of back stock. And she says, "You're not ordering right, you're ordering too much." And I got defensive and I backlashed and said, "You don't even do your own orders. You just press submit. You don't go through your inventory, you just let it come through. And half the time, your orders are always over the top or you have too much." And I got very defensive and I retaliated by going back off on her. And I knew that my inventory was right. I go through my inventory. So I feel as though I shouldn't have got the criticism that I received, but I couldn't help my emotions at the time. When someone criticizes you, your first thing is to do is to get defensive and lash back out at them and prove why they are wrong for criticizing you. So what I've learned through the OB aspect of this is I looked at the concept of emotional intelligence and through controlling your emotions. So through this concept, we try to like understand and manage our emotions and try to figure out how to diagnose each emotion of how we're feeling and know when to use these emotions, because just when you feel some type of way doesn't mean you lash out and feel that type of way. Sometimes it'll be the wrong emotion to show at the wrong time. We don't like to show these emotions due to it could lead to a negative aspect in the future of you lashed out at your boss, now it has cost you your job. Or it could lead you to ruining personal relationships. So understanding the emotional intelligence of this phase of controlling your emotions can help you kind of build a personal and professional level. So emotional awareness I want to touch on. This was kind of a big one. Being aware of your emotions, that's a huge thing. Most of us are not aware of our emotions and we need to learn how to be aware of our emotions. The first thing is that we just currently just go. We like whatever the first thing that pops in our head, whatever emotion that comes to mind, we don't think about it, we just act on it, which is not a good thing to do in the workplace, especially in the workplace, because when we start getting our own jobs, you have to know how to manage and understand your emotions and when to use them and when to release them at the right time. You don't want to release your emotions and it's at the wrong time, and this could cost you your job or it can cost you family or anything else. Balancing these, when to use frustration or when to be positive, is a great thing to have in the business. Next thing I want to touch is emotional control. So, being able to regulate and control your emotions. I saw this quote and it kind of made very much sense to me, as in Control yourself or someone else will control you. So I'll touch on that in a second, but emotionally intelligent people tend to remain more in control than others. They have an understanding of when to use their emotions. Most of us don't even realize we don't have control of our emotions until it's too late. And it's not something that most of us think about fixing, we just act on it. So some good examples that I found were some bad sporting calls, when we're at a game and the ref or whoever, the judge, may make a bad call that you don't agree upon. You don't think about it, you just act on it. So when they make that bad call, you're angry. You're going back and forth. You're like, no, you're defensive of you believe that that call was wrong and you believe it should have been a different call. But you're not thinking. You're just going with the flow with your emotions. You're just letting them come out. Another example was false accusations. Sometimes we are put in situations of where people make up situations about us and we tend to act out in frustration and not think about that as well. We tend to just jump to conclusions and believe that this is all wrong, this shouldn't be like this, and we don't tend to think logically. We just act on our emotions. As well as being called out. Same thing with my situation at work. I was called out about my inventory levels and I backlashed and went off at my boss. I even went further and talked to my employee and talked behind her. You notice this was not professional, but it was through emotional that I didn't realize I didn't control at the moment. I was just very frustrated and I needed to understand how to control my emotions. But I did. Learning this and seeing this quote of control yourself or someone else will control you. When you're at a sporting call and you can't control yourself, that ref's controlling your emotions. He made that call, so now you're feeling a certain way about what he just did. And it's taking control over you. You can't control your own emotions. He took control of it. Same thing with being called out. I didn't have an understanding of how to control my emotions when she made the comment. From understanding all these OB concepts, I can see how I can better myself professionally and personally to understanding the negative and the positive criticism that I can receive and knowing how to control my emotions. Seeing this kind of gave me a nice broader concept of how to go forth with this, as in, I need to be able to understand that you have emotions, yes, but you need to know how to use them correctly. And it's a big play on professionalism and workplace. When you're at work and you know how to control your emotions, you just look like you know what you're doing. As in type of sense of you're not just lashing out when Sally Mae said your dress is ugly or you don't know how to do your job and you just need to go. When you know how to control it and still stay professional and know that their emotions are not going to get the best of you, that's the best way of going about it due to we're in a professional class as well as the workplace and we need to know how to control our emotions. I like going over this whole presentation due to the fact of I learned so much about emotional control and learned that I can take this forth in effort and actually understand the workplace that when I go forth and now that I get the future criticism, I know personally that I can take what I learned and illustrate it into my job, workplace, what I do for inventory, how my boss comes about with things, and how I feel when somebody criticizes me. It may be good or bad, but I know that I can control my emotions now by getting a better understanding of what we learned in the class with the concepts. And I feel like it was a very positive outcome for it. It won't be a change overnight, but I do feel as though I've learned a lot through this whole presentation of how emotions actually come about and how naturally sometimes we just react and we're not even controlling our emotions. We're just letting things go with the flow. But through this, I've understand a lot and I will take in what I've learned. Thanks for watching and I hope you learned something as well.